Can you make a vid for black opening against e4? Knight c6, Nimzowitsch. Yeah, I can do that. So the Nimzowitsch, it's a bit of an unconventional opening and it's one you don't really see as often. But to be honest, it's really, really solid as long as you know what you're doing. Now, the Nimzowitsch is an e4 opening for white and black's response is the horsey to the c6. Now, you can already see we're kind of giving up control of the centre a little bit, but what we're hoping for is a decent lead in the development. So normally what you're going to see is the d4, just white coming down and just trying to control all of these central squares here. And from here, we have a bit of a choice. We could either smash up with the e5, which is the more common thing that you're going to see from the general kind of user level, or we have the d5, which is the most common thing you're going to see from the master level. But yeah, for this, we are looking at pawn coming up onto the d5 here. And if you like this kind of thing and you want to help improve your opening strategy and opening theory, then please subscribe. Going to be doing a lot more stuff like this. Now, in this position, we're kind of in a delayed Scandinavian, and white has a few choices. They could, push the pawn, develop, or go ahead and take. Normally what you're going to see is them just go ahead and take the pawn. We'll start with that first. We will have a little look at the others. Clearly he's attacking our horsey, and our horse is fairly limited in what it can do. Neither of these are particularly good moves, and we don't want to be like jumping back or anything like that. So while you don't normally want to get the queen out too early, in this case it does kind of make the most sense. And again, white has a few choices. He may just come straight out and attack you, but since we are putting a lot of pressure onto this pawn with these two here, normally what you'll see is horsey coming out just to add in that extra layer of defense. And once again, we have a few choices. We could just go straight away and go for the pin like so, but I kind of prefer just going straight up with the e5. Mainly because if he does go ahead and capture, we can go ahead, do the queen exchange. He's now lost his castle and opportunities, which is fantastic for us. And from here, we have pretty obvious moves. We do just want to be developing as normal, and the most natural looking move, getting out the bishop, coming across for the pin like so. And from here you can see we're now attacking this pawn. He can't do anything about it because of the pin, and we're in a very kind of comfortable position here. Now he may come across with something like the horsey just to add in the extra layer of defense. Now you can just go ahead and capture the pawn. I prefer doing the queenside castle, get the king off nice and safe, and pinning the horsey to the king. And from white's perspective, it's very uncomfortable for them. And mainly because if we do go ahead and capture, yes, he can't come down like this, but after he comes across for the check, we push forward the c6, and this rook comes across. I find this a very uncomfortable position. Well, you can see by the analysis bar, it's very, very even. I do find it very uncomfortable, and I prefer just getting castled off nice and safe there. King's nice and safe, rook's on an open file. Just a lot more comfortable position. And we currently have quite a lot of threats going on. He's pinned this way, he's pinned this way, and we're still looking at capturing this pawn at some point. So most natural move for white is to just bring the bishop across onto the e2, just to add in the extra layer of defense. And a couple of things we could do. You can just go right away and just take. He takes back and then we come across and then capture. And that's absolutely fine. And, from here we're just going to be developing as normal, getting our pieces out, getting the rook onto the open file, and just playing a nice normal game of chess here. And you can see analysis bar puts black at a very slight advantage there. Another way that we can do it is bringing across the horsey to here onto the e2, just giving us a little bit more choice in manoeuvring if we want to there. And then after something like horsey coming down to here, threatening this, and also threatening this, clearly we have to do something about it. So we can go ahead, capture his bishop, do the exchange there, and we need to stop this. So we can just jump up, capture the pawn, and we're also defending this pawn on the f7 there. Now white really, really wants to try and get this fork, so bringing in is the horsey like so, hoping that we're going to go ahead and take. Don't do that because clearly we get stuck in the fork and it's pretty much just game over for us there. So we brought this horsey across to the e7, and that's strategically placed so we can either jump to here or jump to here as an extra layer of backup. Either one's absolutely fine, so something like the c6, and if he does come down and take, then we can just go and take back, and we're still keeping this pawn nice and safe there. Now, again, it's going to be a big battle over this, so doing something like pushing down the pawn. If he does that, then all we need to do is just push forwards the h6. If he goes ahead and takes, we can then take back, and we're in a fairly comfortable position. Once he goes ahead and captures, whoopsie daisy, he captures, now threatening the rook. Just bring it across to here, and once again, we're threatening this pawn. We have the rooks on, nice open files here. All we have to do is just look at trying to get this guy out, and yeah, fairly comfortable, fairly even game of chess. Now, let's just bring it all the way back to here. We've just shot up the pawn to the e5. Now, let's just say instead of going ahead and capturing, he makes the much better move of developing his horsey to the c3, directly attacking our queen like so. Well, clearly we need to do something about it. Now, we don't need to jump the queen out the way. We can just develop naturally, coming across and doing the pin, stopping them from going ahead and taking. Makes the most sense and very natural developmental move. So, he then comes across to try and block it. Once again, now threatening our queen, so we can just go ahead and do the exchange like so. And now what we want to be doing is just being as aggressive as possible, pushing forwards the pawn, attacking his horsey there. And you may see him jump down like so, you may see him jump back to here. If he jumps back to here, it's pretty straightforward stuff. We just develop our other horsey, he comes across, threatening our queen. We just shimmy across to here, onto the g5, threatening that pawn, and we just play out normal kind of game of chess from there. Alternatively, he may come down to here, and then all we're going to do is just go right ahead and do the exchange. When he goes ahead and takes, don't be tempted to go ahead and do the queen exchange, because if you do, we take, he can then get the rook, nice open file, and that's going to be a right pain to deal with. And you can just see analysis bars just sharp right up in white's favour. Much better move is to just develop as normal. I know I keep going on about it, but just makes the most sense. Get the horsey to here on the e7, and if he does do something like goes ahead and takes, we can just go ahead, take back. We're now threatening this. If he comes across with something like the bishop, we can just go ahead and take, double up his pawns, and then get castled off nice and safe there, and we're in a pretty good position now. And if he goes and does something like castles off to the king's side, just get your rook on the open file, this pawn's now a target, and the game just pretty much just plays itself. And if he decides he doesn't want to do the queen trade, he just does something like brings the bishop out just to try and get castled off, then just castle off to the king's side, he can do the same. And from here, all we're going to be doing is, we can look at bringing the bishop across to here, just adds in an extra layer of defence there, and then just getting the rooks across into the centre, and then just pushing the pawns forward like so. Now, let's just bring it all the way back. We've just come up with the queen, and we've taken the pawn, and let's just see he comes out with a horsey to the c3. Well, like we said before, we're applying a lot of pressure onto this d4 pawn, so we may as well just go right up and take it. And he may opt to move the queen out the way, he may opt to just go right ahead and take. If he takes, clearly we're going to take back, and we're now threatening this fork, which looks fantastic for us, but he can then jump down with his horsey and threaten the exact same thing with us. And we're left with a bit of a choice. We can either jump back the horsey to try and defend the pawn, or alternatively we can go up, put him in check, and then go for the fork. Now, clearly Stockfish prefers us to go up like so, and it is probably the better move. Stockfish does say so, but Stockfish is a computer, we're humans, and it can get a little bit uncomfortable, so King comes across, directly attacking, and we just go right ahead and we pick up the rook. Once we've done that, he does this, we come across, and then he goes ahead and does the same. And you can see we are now in this kind of position, quite symmetrical, but the main difference is we still have this pawn, so we can just shoot up and then just try and control the centre. So White will just keep developing as normal, get out his horsey, threaten that pawn. We have to then come across with the bishop just to try and keep it safe, and then he can shoot across with his bishop like so, staring down this pawn. And we have a choice, we can either give up the pawn, or we can choose not to. If you choose not to, you'd just be pushing forwards the pawn to here onto the b6, obviously stopping him from coming across like so. Now, if he comes across with something like the bishop to the b5, then all we're going to do is bring across our bishop to here on the f5, just trying to keep an eye on this square, stops the king from marching across and gobbling up our horsey there, and just gives him a little bit of room for manoeuvring there. Now, you may see him come across with the horse, kind of threatening us. Don't be tempted to drop it back to here, where he could go ahead and take. Well, yes, we're going to have the rook in an open file. It's just not the most comfortable. Really, a better move would be bringing it across to here and looking at doing the bishop exchange there. And then when he starts coming across, kind of looking at gobbling this up, all we have to do just develop our horsey, looking at just picking this up as soon as we can, and if he takes, take back with the king, and there's nothing he can do to stop this horsey from falling. If instead white decides to pick up what looks like a free pawn, then clearly we're just going to shimmy across here, take his horsey, and then if he just say moves the king out of the way, looking at gobbling up this guy, we can then just shimmy it back. If he does go ahead and take it, then once we've taken, we now have the 2 minor pieces to his 1. We have the rook. We're going to be gobbling this up. A completely winning position for black here. Now, just bringing it back to this position, we can actually give up this pawn. So just developing the horsey, he comes down, takes the pawn, and then we just bring across the bishop to here onto the e6. Now, he's going to want to get the horsey out the way because clearly as soon as the king moves out the way, he's just going to get gobbled up. So he jumps across to here. And all we're going to be doing is going right on the attack. So coming up with the horsey, threatening this fork, like so. Now, king will just start slowly moving across. Obviously, he just want to be caught up in the fork. And he can kind of eke his way to safety there and look at picking up that horsey in the meantime. Well, we can jump up and still go and directly attack his rook. Rook moves out the way, and then we move the bishop across to here, looking at moving this out of the way for the discovered attack, and looking at gobbling up material on this side. So white's king just moves across towards the corner, almost like a manual castle, and we just kind of have to accept that our horsey is pretty much done for. So just jump the horsey down, going for that discovered attack. He's then forced to move the rook out of the way, and then we can just jump up our king to here. And if he goes ahead and gobbles it up, then we just do the exchange like so, and we are now +1 in development and in a much better position. More than likely he'll come down, grab that pawn, but that's not a huge issue. If he does something stupid like brings the bishop across to here, you can see that analysis bar just straight away because we now have this fork, and he has no way of protecting this bishop. Clearly, he can't bring it across to here because we'll just gobble it up, so something like that. We grab the bishop and completely win position. And if he does go ahead and take that pawn, that's absolutely fine. All we're going to be doing, I'd bring up the horsey to here, just kind of limiting the black king's movement. And if possible, if he doesn't do something like pushing forwards the b3, look at bringing across your rook to here and then having the rook and the bishop both staring down on that pawn there. Now, just bringing it all the way back, so we've just captured the pawn, he's come down with the horsey, and we've done the exchange like so. Clearly that line before it's quite a lot. There is an easier way of doing it. Now, that is a really fun line, and like I say, it's very interesting going up and going for the fork, and then, you know, them doing the same thing. If you want an easier way of doing it, instead, you can just, when he comes down like so, we can just bring back the horsey to defend this square here. And this is an absolutely fine line. You know, like when he brings out the other horsey, we can then bring out ours, look at doing the exchange. And from here, if he brings out his bishop, we have a couple of choices. We can bring up the bishop and go for the check. And then when he goes and blocks it, we can then look at doing the exchange like so. And from here, we'll just be castling off, you know, looking at getting the bishop out, getting the rooks onto the open files. Pretty straightforward. Alternatively, we could just bring the bishop to somewhere like here on the d6. He brings out his, and then we can look at hopping up the horsey to here, trying to take care of his good bishop. And if he does the exchange, that's fine. And then from here, again, we're just going to get castled off to safety there, and we should be absolutely fine. Or alternatively, let's just say we come to here, we can castle off, he castles off, and then we look at doing the same thing. Really, we want to try and get rid of that good bishop. And then after he takes, we take back, and then, yeah, we just look at bringing across the rooks onto the open files. Clearly, we'll just be getting this guy out of somewhere. But yeah, nice, normal kind of game of chess, and black is a definite advantage there. And the last one I'm going to look at today is, once we've done the exchange, is if he brings across the bishop to here onto the e3. Now from here, I would be still pushing forwards that e5 pawn just to try and blow open the centre a bit. And clearly, if he was to go ahead and take, then we would just go ahead and take back. Same as before, he's lost his castling opportunities, and we are in for a pretty wonderful game from there. Alternatively, what you may see is the pawn comes straight down, directly attacking our queen. Clearly, we can't take it because it is nice and safe there, so just shimmy it across and put him in check. Now, normally what you'll see is the most forcing move is the bishop coming back and just threatening your queen like so. So just keep developing and develop with force. So bring across your bishop, and we have a big ol' staring match going on here. Now, something like the d5, you know, attacking your horsey, well, we can just jump it straight up like so. And if he comes across and attacks your horsey, then you might as well just go right ahead and do that bishop exchange. So there's a couple of ways that he could do it. He may go ahead and take with the queen. And if he does, that works out pretty awesome for us. You can see that analysis bar. Let's just bring it back. Just whap, whap, sad trombone noises. Because all we need to do now, hop up that horsey, put him in check. Clearly, he can't take because we are threatening like so. And we're just going to go and get ourselves a nice free rook. King moves across, we then take his queen, he then is pretty much forced to take the queen, and then we just gobble that up and it's completely winning position. It's just game over for white. And if instead he just say goes ahead and captures with the horsey instead of the king, same thing, we're clearly just going to go ahead and get that. And then after that, something like the horsey coming across, we can then just bring across our bishop, try and protect this square, and if we're lucky, we might be able to go and save our horsey there. Now instead, more than likely, once we've gone ahead and we've gone for this, you'll probably just see him come across with the horsey like so. Makes the most sense, and you can see analysis bar, it's a much better move there. Well, just bring across your bishop to the g4, just kind of staring down, because clearly he wants to jump across to here, and that kind of stops it. And normally what you're going to see is something like the f3 coming across. And again, this works out pretty well for us. We can just go ahead and take it, and if he takes, we take back. He then moves to here, and then we just go right ahead and then pick it up as horsey. Clearly, he can't take it because of our queen there, and we're in, once again, for a pretty good game. And another move that you may see, which is probably one of the better moves, is the pawn coming down to here, with plans of just thrusting forwards that pawn onto the b4 to try and kick our queen out of the way. Now, you can just kind of move your queen out of the way straight away if you want, or instead you can just kind of carry on developing, and then when that comes down, that's fine, you can just drop the queen back, and it's okay for us. Clearly, it's not as good as the other moves, but to be honest, you're not going to see this quite as often. More often than not, what you'll be seeing is this pawn coming down. But if you do see it, like I say, just develop, that comes down, just shimmy it back. It's a fine position. It's a 0.5 advantage for white, which isn't a huge advantage at all. I mean, clearly from here, I'd be looking at trying to get castled off to the king side there, because queen side, it isn't too safe. We have all these pawns kind of raining down on us. Normally what you're going to see is something like the pawn come down just to try and kick you out the way, and if he does, that's absolutely fine. Just drop this back to something like the d7. If he does go ahead and take, that's fine. We can just take back from there, and like I say, we'll be looking at getting castled off to the king side there. Sometimes what you may see is them getting a little bit too kind of narrow vision on that queen, and then coming down with the pawn like so, and you can see that analysis bar there, because all we're going to do is just shimmy it across to here, and now we are threatening all kinds of shenanigans here, and this works out pretty awesome for us. White's clearly concerned about the inevitable fork, so kind of forced to move that rook out of the way. Something like the c1's probably what you're going to see there, and from there, all we're going to be doing, I would just go right ahead and take that, do the exchange there, and then just shoot the queen up, take the pawn, force him to move that rook out the way, and you can just see how cramped things are starting to get for white there. And from here, we can either just go and castle off to the king side there, and that would be absolutely fine, or alternatively, just keep getting the pieces into the action and get the other horsey involved there. Anyway, that is all we have time for today. This has taken ages to make, surprisingly long time, and I have a night shift tonight, and I really need to go to bed before it. So yeah, you dudes, if you enjoyed it, please subscribe, and look forward to the next episode. I believe what we're going to be doing is if the pawn gets pushed forwards to the e5. Again, there's going to be quite a lot to cover in that, so look forward to that. And like I say, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss it. You dudes, go off, have some fun, play some chess, and I'll catch you all later.